Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. We are going to dream with Dan today. I'm so excited to have this conversation. We're going to be talking about all of my favorite stuff. Let's create some shifts. Let's help some people get pointed in the direction to everything their heart desires. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here, especially as, yes, we're singing from the same hymn sheet and we're ready to get into it and give the listeners something yummy today.
Absolutely. So let's start by talking about your business.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are, we're all business owners. We're
Mm-hmm.
all reaching for that next level.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're reaching for multiple next levels, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how big your goals are.
Mm-hmm.
We're all curious. What's your
Mm-hmm.
business?
I have multiple businesses. So one of the frameworks I teach is something called Money DNA, and my Money DNA is something that I've honored for a very long time now in terms of how I move through the world of business. And my strengths actually lean towards me being more in the investor quadrant, if we're talking about the Robert Kiyosaki side of things, and bringing the capital that I have to the table, which is sometimes financial capital and other times my creative capital, my idea to look at things differently, to come from outside of the box. And so I've taken stakes in some businesses through that. My brother and I have a business in the UK. My brother and my other sister have a business in the UK. My brother and three of my sisters have a business somewhere else as well. And then I've got other bits and pieces. But my everyday life tends to be spent creating impact through the personal development work that I do. That's dreamwithdan.com. We support people in two real realms. On the entrepreneurial side, it's really bringing the spirit of abundance to how we do business. So there's enough for all of us. We don't have to kill the competition. We can give more than we're taking in money value and actually get ahead, all that kind of good, yummy stuff. And also the Money DNA stuff goes into that ecosystem. And then carrying the abundance over to non-entrepreneurial kind of everyday go get the paycheck people. It's empowering them to go from a space of scarcity all the way into freedom and then abundance. And we support people doing that in as little as 90 days. So that's what I do with my everyday. And then I have other entrepreneurial, businessy interests that I get to dip my toe in as well.
That is a lot of different directions that we can go,
Yes.
but you know that I really want to give our listeners some really good stuff here. When
Mm-hmm.
I get guests like you on, I always get so excited because we're getting into the realm of metaphysics, but we're doing it in a very practical, pragmatic way that
Yeah.
the average entrepreneur can really grab a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
While we understand the incredible transformational value of meditation and affirmations, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm by trade, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. We're talking about how the mind works and how we work within this universe, but we want to really embrace this sort of physicalness that we're all a part of, because we didn't just come here to be all sort of airy fairy and float around and just sit and meditate and manifest money in our bank account. We want to create, we want to be doing this stuff. We love to be
Mm-hmm.
out there doing our business and sharing our products. And sometimes sales is fun, sometimes marketing is fun, sometimes that is the juice that gets us going. So then when we're talking about business and we're talking about metaphysics and the power of the mind, where do you bridge that gap that
Mm-hmm.
is so common, where you have some people who are almost overly spiritual and not grounded in sort of this reality that we're all experiencing, versus the business owner who's so like in the daily grind that they stick their nose up at anything that has any resemblance to metaphysics or spirituality?
Mm. I think it's imperative that we actually look at the reality of the way that reality functions. I had the honor of filming a documentary last year. With fingers crossed, going to be releasing it probably Q3. We'll try to get it done before the summer, but there's been some delays putting it out. And I got to interview a tenured neuroscientist, a medical biochemist, and one of the scientists that works on the MRI machine. And we scientifically interrogated the concept of manifestation and really grounded it in the real world, right? So what's going on in the brain. And I plan to follow that up with some stuff looking at more of the quantum side of things and the physics side of things. But one of the things that I found was that all of the fluffy stuff that we talk about with the metaphysical side generally is the smoke to the fire of something real underneath. And to give the context to this, I'm going to share a quick anecdote. I was on Instagram. We're just talking about Instagram, you and I, in the green room. I was on Instagram, and I want the listener to note I said I'm on Instagram. And I saw an ad that said, how to get your ideal clients without using Instagram. So somebody was on Instagram selling me the story that I don't need Instagram to get clients. There was another anecdote. There was a guy that tried to get money, and we're talking about $10,000, $20,000 from me, to teach me how to use a particular client lead generation model. And yet he was using LinkedIn to try and get me as a client. So he wasn't even using the model that he was selling. So I see why many people get disillusioned with some of these metaphysical ideas, because this same kind of bait and switch that we see has been played on a lot of people, because the fluffy, powdery, not going anywhere metaphysical concepts that are creating this delusionment in people, it's like people are going to a lot of effort to tell you that you don't have to do anything. I say to anybody that's holding the illusion that you're going to be able to create wealth, create abundance, create a successful business without having grounded action, a positive mindset, yes, emotional resilience to deal with the day-to-day life of an entrepreneur, which isn't easy. Like, the people that sold you that story went to a lot of trouble to tell you that, right? They created a YouTube channel. They had it professionally edited. They made a very fancy video with this 1 hour audio that you listen to every night that's going to make you millions of dollars, right? Or they sent you a Facebook ad to say, it's time for you to manifest anything you want. And you gave them your 997, which they gladly received with gratitude to the universe, right? And then told you the story that you don't have to do anything. And it's almost like a massive Ponzi scheme. And I see why, but there is fire to the smoke of these stories. Reality, the universe is built on a set of rules, and you can navigate those rules with ease and grace and flow using metaphysical tools, but you're not going to be able to bypass them. We're not even bending them. We're playing with them, right? Cause and effect. If I deliver value, I get results. If I use metaphysical tools in order to create an alignment with people for whom I can create value with, that's something. Me sitting down thinking that money is going to fall out of the sky, gold coins shall rain down and not kill anybody, and I will spend them, right? That's just not how things go. It's not reality. There is no instance where there's not been a movement through time and space for anything to be created. Even someone that wants to manifest winning the lottery, you still need to move through time and space to buy a lottery ticket, even if you're just moving a thumb. And even then, you're going to end up spending that money moving through time and space. So there's always a time and space movement. And the second that we understand that the magic of mysticism is grounded in very real world rules, which when adhered to and honored can create massive amounts of flow, that's when you get to tap the magic and enjoy the journey of doing so.
I love that. So we have people right now saying, okay, I get this. I completely understand and agree. What do I have to do? Because the information is out there. You know, I put out a video, I think it was a couple months back, and I titled it something like the not so secret secret to success, because it's everywhere. This information is everywhere. It is not secret. But if you don't know what you're looking for, then it's easy to not find it, not see it, right? If you don't know how to interpret it, you could also easily misunderstand it. And then it becomes another one of those frustrating, too good to be true types of things. So let's talk a little bit about the practicality of this, because as a hypnotherapist for many years, off and on, and most people are very down to earth, pretty grounded, but over the course of my many years of doing this work, I would get the occasional person who would reach out who would have this very dysfunctional idea about what hypnosis can do. as though
Mm-hmm.
somehow someone could just magically take someone who has been, say, struggling in scarcity for their entire life,
Mm-hmm.
currently has a tremendous amount of negative associations, negative beliefs, negative
Mm-hmm.
momentum going on their financial circumstances. And they just find someone who can sort of like wave the dangly watch and
Mm-hmm.
say a couple of key magic words, and instantaneously years worth of reinforced negative beliefs and programming just bam disappear, and they become a billionaire.
But Aisha, that's because that's what's being sold, and people are getting very rich selling that story. And I think until enough of us call out the BS on these stories being touted around, it's going to continue. That's the long story short. And it's a sad truth. Ultimately, um, even when we look at hypnosis, yeah, there's magic going on, but it's magic that goes on as the literally the neural pathways in the brain are rewired. And hypnosis allows us to access the unconscious and bypass the conscious and start to plant the seeds of that. But the seeds still have to grow, and it has to be supported with what you do afterwards. Are you listening to, if there's a follow-up audio, are you listening to the follow-up audio for like 21, 30 days, or how many days it's prescribed? Are you following up with ongoing sessions? Are you ensuring that your environment is supporting you with the work that has begun with the session that you've gone into? I personally, we use in our work, we use hypnosis, and we also use rapid transformation therapy, which is like hypnosis on steroids with the regression stuff. I personally work with one of my coaches, Leah, once a month on that, and we just keep digging in. We have the session, I have the audio for 21 days, I listen, I give it 7 days to integrate, and then I go back in and we check and see what we're going to tweak. And I do that religiously, right? And we make sure that people that do come into our ecosystem, that do start to use some of these mindset based tools, unconscious mind tools, that they understand that there's going to be a consistent work that needs to happen in order for there to be a benefit from it. Because if you're have this amazing set, Alicia does this amazing session for you, oh my god, the seeds are planted, you feel the magic, and then you go back to the same environment around the same people having the same conversations about the same things, of course the limiting beliefs aren't going to go anywhere. They're going to still be there because you've watered that plant, you fed that wolf, right? And that's why it's going to grow. And so what I always love to say, so I've got a framework called the flow funnel, which looks at this model of how desires, thoughts, and ideas become a part of our everyday life. And what I always remind people is ultimately everything that shows up in your physical reality is a result of cause and effect of what you have or haven't done. Choices that you have or haven't made lead to you being in a position in time and space that matches circumstances of people, places, and things. If you want to be in a situation, for example, where you have more money, you could go and rob banks, of course, right? You could go and be a Tinder swindler if you fancy yourself being a bit cute and handsome. Or what's the lady that the girl, the Tinder swindler's the guy. Was Anna? Was the woman that was a charlatan
But
and
was
stealing
this
money from
about
people?
the cryptocurrency thing?
Yeah, some thing like that. But yeah, you could do that and not sleep at night and have horrible karma. Or you could understand that for money to be in your world, there has to be movements through time and space that honor the rules of money being in your world, which is exchanging value with people. All right. So if you want more money, then you need to be in a physical situation where you are creating the cause that's going to lead to the effect of you exchanging value with people. It doesn't matter how happy clappy you are or how positively minded you are or how many morning rampages you've done, how much ayahuasca you've drunk or smoke or whatever they do with the ayahuasca these days, how many trips you've taken under the full moon to the sacred lakes of Wakiki, Wakanda or whatever to pray to the ancestors on 8/8/28 or whatever the thing is. It doesn't really matter if at the end of the day, when it comes down to physical reality, you haven't made the choice to exchange value with people. That's it. And so ultimately, what I remind people is you've got that exchange of value, right? You need to have a mindset that supports you actually taking the actions to exchange the value. So you need to deal with those limiting beliefs. You need to make sure you've got an expansive vision. You need to have a clear idea in your mind, a picture of you in that successful execution. You need to have an identity in your mind. But then you also have to have an emotional state that matches that, because we can only think to the level of our emotional state. So you need to be able to have the resilience to deal with the very real world situation of the fact that not everything's going to work out all the time, right? That things are going to go wrong. You're going to have challenges. We had bloody COVID. How many people expected that their business was going to be shut down by like weird disease, like the entire world? Not many people were expecting that. So you needed to have resilience. And the people that had resilience were able to thrive. My business like quadrupled or quintupled over that period of time. Like we really well. Not because of, and we weren't, a lot of people were cashing in on the COVID stuff. We weren't even doing that. We were sticking to what we do, which is supporting people in creating abundance, able to navigate the landscape. We had to make some pivots and make some switches, but had the resilience to do that. So you need to be able to do that. And the thing is that tools like meditation, tools like breath work, tools like yoga, tools like chanting, tools like going to the temple or bathing in the sacred lakes of Wakanda can support you in executing on that internal environment that's going to lead to the execution. But ultimately, unless those two pieces, your inner world and your outer world, are working together, nothing's going to change. And it doesn't matter how good you feel about it, it's just not going to change.
All of the metaphysical books that are like the classics are always talking about that piece, that value piece. And they are sometimes stating it differently. Sometimes they're literally saying you have to provide value. And sometimes they're just talking about, you know, if you find yourself in the wrong industry, you can align yourself with the right industry.
I can hear Wallace in those words there.
And here we have a listener base that is, they get it, right? They're providing value, or they're intending to provide value. So they're not necessarily those who would be just hoping that they can quit their horrible soul-sucking job and just money is just gonna, you know, enter their bank account without lifting a finger ever again, right?
Yeah.
There's something incredibly satisfying about physical action. And I think that that is a really important thing that people need to understand, is that it's not just about action with the wrong mindset, because a lot of people are taking a lot of action, and their limiting beliefs, their negative mindset, their negative self-image is causing them to just feel like a failure. They're spinning their wheels, they're burning themselves out, they're progressively feeling more and more disempowered, more and more hopeless. And so it's really that combination of working on your mindset, being in the right energy, doing those other things that are helping to support and reinforce the beliefs and the attitude and the energy and the mindset, while simultaneously taking
100%.
those actions. And that really does seem to be that perfect dance, right? That we're always sort of tweaking and finding our way and fixing and refining. And, you know, in the business world, I think you even use the word, you know, sometimes you got to pivot. You got to, you know, look at the results that you're getting and sort of feel your way, find your way into the right place, because maybe you veered a little bit off path, or you know, circumstances have put you
100%.
on a different path.
For real.
But now I want to take just a moment, and I want to take a step back from all of this really motivational, inspirational, but absolutely powerful, true stuff. And I want to just kind of dig into you as the business owner for a moment.
Sure.
Because those of us who have been studying this stuff, sometimes for decades, we still are doing our inner work. You mentioned you are still doing your inner work
consistently.
I've found, and I've mentioned it so many times on this podcast, that a lot of newer business owners especially, but also a lot of veterans, have this misconception that there's something wrong with them if they have limiting beliefs, or if they have challenges, or if they have addictions, or if they've got like these secret problems that they don't want other people to know about. And there's also this really dysfunctional idea that we as human beings have, that people who have achieved a certain level of success, somehow they've got it all together. And they're better than everyone else. They're better than us, right? And I like to just make this real and bring it to people's conscious awareness that, no, listen, even successful people are still doing their work. They still are working through stuff. They're up leveling their mindset. They have to let go of some of their old self-image stuff, some of their old limiting beliefs. For you as the entrepreneur and your journey to get to where you are, because you're a successful individual and you're going to continue to probably be on this positive trajectory for a while now, but up to this point, has there been a mindset shift that you've had to make that has really been pivotal in getting you to where you are today?
100%. And I just want to add to what you said on one thing, that nobody's got it all worked out. And anyone who's pretends they've got it all figured out, run away. Like, run away from anyone's like, oh, yes, yeah, I've got it all figured out. Because nobody does. None of us are perfect. None of us are drifting through the ethers, looking down on everyone else. We're all humans. We've all got stuff going on. And I like to make a habit of ensuring that people know I don't have everything worked out. I continue to work on myself. And I certainly have not had the easiest of journeys. I actually made and lost two multi-million pound fortunes by the age of 23 years old, twice, right? Made and lost twice. Took me into a very deep, dark suicidal ideation, depression-y kind of thing, clawed my way out of that over a course of years, and then was able to build something sustainable that's last now more than a decade. But one of the key things that I had to learn was this differentiation of these different parts of what I described earlier as the flow funnel. It's like my mindset was unassailable. I was reading books like Think and Grow Rich, Wallace D. Wattles, Joe Carbo's Easy Way to Riches, the Master Key System, Charles F. Harnell. I was reading all of that as a teenager. And so without the experience, the life experience to know any different, I thought that I did know everything. And that was what led to my downfall, essentially. That and not having the emotional resilience to deal with challenges, number one. And number two, not having the vibrational experience of holding different experiences of money. 90% of lottery winners go back to exactly where they were within 5 years, because we always return back to the default setting of our internal environment. And if you haven't taken the time out to ensure that your environment supports you being able to sit and remain at the new experience that you've got, you're going to get it, but you're not going to be able to keep it. And I learned that the hard way. And so I would say that's very much the key things. And then the other thing is on the practical side, the framework that I teach around money DNA has been essential, because it means that I'm not ever doing anything, not ever. I'm generally not doing anything that's outside of the scope of what I should be doing in order to move the needle in my life and business, right? So when we break down money DNA and we use a series of personality profiles to map this, and I've actually got a free 5-day challenge on it. It's literally just like takes you through it. And we can maybe give the guys the link to that in the show notes for them to be able to explore what money DNA means to them. But we go through these pillars of what vehicle you should be doing, which includes the industry, the way that you should be connecting with your customers, the way that you should be exchanging the value. Pillar 2 is all about the role, what you should be doing every day, what you shouldn't be doing, and who you should be getting to support you to do different roles. We've got another pillar that looks at how we communicate with ourselves and others in order to affect change and move towards outcomes, how we make body-based instead of limiting mind-based decisions, and also how we make sure that we don't procrastinate actually take action. And this is a model that I've used for myself. And that's what allows me. I work 3 days a week. I generally work about 10 hours a week and 3 days a week, generally. Sometimes not even that much. And mostly if I'm doing that many hours, I'm doing like interviews and stuff like that. In terms of actual work, I did an hour and a half of admin today, 2 hours of admin. Some of that time spent dealing with team members, but I allow people to be in their zone of genius and I stay in mine. And I couple that with continually working on my mindset. I spend 6 figures a year on my personal development. Last year, I did like 160,000, I think, on my personal development. And then I take care of my emotional state and take care of my spirit with things like meditation, with things like spending time in silence, with things like checking what's going on in my environment. And I bring all of that together with a clear vision for my life. And that's what keeps me on target. In the days when I don't feel like it, in the days when I feel crappy, when the depression tries to keep up, I allow myself to be supported and take care of these different areas.
So good. All right, Dan, I want to keep you. I do. Because I want to keep extracting awesome stuff that you can share with my listeners, because you're making me look good. Okay? But I know we are out of time. So I want to make sure our listeners know how they can connect with you. Can you share your website and anywhere else that you want them to find you, follow you, and so on?
Best thing is to go to dreamwithdan.com, really easy. We've got a free resources page. I don't remember the link for the challenge thing, but we'll get it over to you so you can pop
Yes,
that in
you
the
can
show
share
notes.
with
Yeah.
me and I'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, we'll pop it in the show notes. But yeah, have a look at the website. All my social media is there. I write for Entrepreneur Magazine. You can search my name on Entrepreneur Magazine, Daniel Mangena. You'll be able to find me. I've got a lot of articles on there. But generally, everything's on the website, dreamwithdan.com. Easiest place to go and find everything.
So good. This has been a lot of fun. I knew it would be. I knew you'd share some nuggets. You did. You did not
Thank
disappoint.
you. Thank you.
So I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Dan.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for
And
having
of
me.
course, got to thank all of our listeners. We're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.